Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome back to another college football roundtable. This one is a little bit different from the first one, as you can see, we have pretty much an entirely new cast, except for a few returners. Starting up in the top center, you've got our boy Jack is back. Shout out Penn State. Charlie Hitt is back for another run. Shout out the Tennessee Volunteers, even though there is absolutely nothing good about Tennessee besides the fact that Knoxville is a pretty nice place. And then, of course, in the top left corner, representing the greatest college football team on God's green earth, the blue and gold themselves, who may be wearing black on Friday night. Yours truly with the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. But yes, that is actually a rumored belief that we are going to be wearing black. So, for those that are new here, I'm going to explain how this works because this is a different roundtable from the last one. This one's going to get heated, and I just know it because we're fans of teams in the college football playoff. If you don't think things are going to get a little bit chippy tonight, then you're watching the wrong show. Let's not waste any time. I'm going to discuss how this works. We're each going to have 8 minutes to debate each other about the teams that you're playing against. So, me and Ethan Bonner are going to kick things off, followed by Jack and the SMU representative once he gets here. Charlie Hitt and the Ohio State representative once he gets here. And, of course, the Honorable Joe Hoffman and the Texas rep once he gets here. They're running a little bit late, so we're going to push. We're going to make the debates a little bit more interesting, I guess you could say. So without further ado, let's not waste any time. The first game on the docket is as follows. It's the Notre Dame Fighting Irish taking on the Indiana Hoosiers. Connor, I know you're hyped up for this game, aren't you?
Hey, it's been first time in how long? Let's see, forever. It's hype. It's hype.
First time that Indiana has ever. Is this the first time you've ever finished in the top 10?
Yeah,
that's not good. That's terrible.
We've been top 5 at points.
So what makes you think that you have any business being in the college football playoff?
All right, are we starting the timer? 8 minutes.
We've already started.
Oh fuck! All right, let's go.
Hot out the gate. That's how we do it in South Bend. Hot out the gate, and then you lose to Northern Illinois, and then win 10 in a row. That is the Notre Dame way.
Let's roll. All right, fine. So with the new 12-team playoff, right? The biggest thing that came out of it was college campuses get to host a playoff game in the first round, right?
Correct.
Okay. It's the Battle of Indiana. And I know that Notre Dame Stadium, that is going to be packed with IU fans. I know the tickets are going to be expensive. How?
Bullshit.
Tell me.
I'll tell you how. It is that simple. IU fans cannot afford $1,000 tickets. It is not that difficult. Why do you think Notre Dame tickets are around $700, $800, $900? Hell, I would have bought 3 tickets if I could have already. But this is the issue. Like, if it wasn't Indiana, this would be such a cheaper game. But because it's against those scumbags in state, that's going to make this thing a bit more pricey. But, I mean, it is what it is. If you can go, then great. If not, then watch from home. Go for the Irish. Kurt Signetti is a piece of garbage, and I'm just going to let you know that right now. That dude cannot stop running.
Unanimous Coach of the Year in 3 different awards. Should have
been Jeff Monken. Anyway, that's besides the point. What I'm trying to say is Kurt Signetti needs to keep his mouth shut, saying that Notre Dame doesn't belong in the college football playoff because, they lost to Northern Illinois. Yeah, but who has Indiana beat? Michigan, Nebraska.
Who beat OSU, right?
You lost to them. Handedly, I might add.
But you lost to NIU.
Okay.
We both had 1-loss seasons, right?
Correct.
Who lost to the worst team?
Who beat the better team?
Okay, yes, but also you're not in a conference, first of all. Second, you've only played one dynamic team, and that is Texas A&M. The other 2 teams, I'll give you Army-Navy. They're both very good. But
hang on. Let's not sleep on Georgia Tech, who took Georgia to 8 overtimes. Let's also not sleep on Louisville, who was undefeated and beat Clemson later in the year. But carry on.
Okay, what was I at? Oh, Army-Navy. Army-Navy, they're very run-heavy. And obviously, Bryson Daly, Heisman candidate, well, somewhat.
Not on Saturday.
Not on Saturday, yep. But he up to that point when he was playing you guys, very good team. And obviously Notre Dame, like Army, very run heavy. Can we agree on that?
Absolutely. I
Okay.
agree on that.
IU is what was it? Oh, IU has the number one run D in the country, 850 total yards. The second best run D has given up over 1,000, and the margin between first and second is 150 yards. NIU has the number 16 run D in the country. Now imagine going against number one, Indiana, who only gave up just over 100 to OSU. That's going to be very different.
Let's not sugarcoat it, though. Is Travion Henderson and Quinshon Judkins really that good of running backs? No, they're a pass-heavy. They're a pass-heavy team. Look at Jeremiah Smith. Look at Carnell Tate. Look at Emeka Ibuka. Look at G. Scott Jr. Look at all these wideouts. They're from what I've watched Ohio State, they rely on throwing the ball through the air. I don't see them as a team that is significantly against the run. My thing is, though, Jeremiah Love is not any running back. That dude gets around 7 yards a carry, A. B, let's not sugarcoat the fact that he has scored every single game this season. And C, let's also not sugarcoat that the Indiana Hoosiers defense has not faced an offense like this besides OSU, who are synonymous for starting off games absolutely terribly. Am I right or wrong on that? They always will start off so flat and so bad. The second half is where things are going to turn around. It is that simple. When it comes to the Irish, we follow a strict mantra. 4 quarters of fuck you football.
Okay, what happened the past 2 times you made the playoffs?
This is a whole nother team.
IU has no expectation to be here. They were projected to be second to last in the Big Ten, just in front of Purdue.
Correct.
The last 2 playoff games that Notre Dame played, they were outscored 61-17.
Well, hold on. Let's not sugarcoat the fact that they played the 2020 Alabama Crimson Tide and the 2018 Clemson Tigers. I'm pretty sure both teams went on to win the national championship.
Okay, but when you were in 2018, you were one of the most dominant, Notre Dame was one of the best teams in the country.
No, we weren't. No, we weren't. We were just undefeated. We had not had a single good win all year, and Brian Kelly was due to lose a game. They played with fire in 2018 and very well could have lost the game if they really tried to. That team is not that good. This is the best Notre Dame team I've seen since 2012. I'm just going to go ahead and say it on record. This is the best team I've seen since 2012.
That's completely fair. And I will say, ever since that NIU loss, they have looked like the best team. And I'll give you credit for that. Like, I'll give credit when it's due. But I'm very concerned for Notre Dame that when they play heavy passing offenses, and I'll give you an example. When you guys played USC, you won 49-35.
Correct.
They had 2 pick sixes. So imagine, take those away. When they were facing USC, they were giving up 10 yards a play. 10 yards a play.
Yeah.
And now you're down your best cornerback in Benjamin Morrison.
We've been down Benjamin Morrison. Let's not sugarcoat that. He's been injured since the start of the season, basically.
And Rourke has completed more than 52% of his passes that are more than 10 yards down the field. I don't know how many Indiana games you've watched this season, but
I've watched a bunch.
How many jump balls did you see perfectly placed to either Surratt, Cooper, Keyshawn, whoever? How many did you see?
Not a lot. Rourke was putting the ball exactly where it needed to be. Like is obviously a guy that will go out and trust his guys. But from what I've seen, Curtis Rourke is the type of QB that could just put the ball in a spot where nobody else can get to it. Why do you think he's top 10 in Heisman voting?
Well, he was 4th in QBR this season.
Exactly my point. He's a good quarterback. But how are they going to handle one of the best defensive lines in the country? Howard Cross, Riley Mills, R.J. Oben, Junior Tuihalamaka, one of the better D lines in the country. You should have seen what we did to any quarterback we faced this year. And also, let's not sugarcoat the secondary. Christian Gray had one of the worst starts to a game I'd ever seen against USC. How does he respond? He gets a pick six. A pick six on a ball there was no shot in hell I thought he was going to get. But somehow he magically caught that and then ran back 90 yards to the house. Let's also not forget that Xavier Watts is that guy. All-American for a reason. Arguably the best safety in the country besides Malachi Starks and potentially Caleb Downs. He's a monster. And let's also not forget the linebackers. Drake Bowen, Jack Kaiser, These are guys that I would want out there in the foxhole with me saying, hey, I have a job to do. I need you to go out there and do it. This is the team that I truly believe can go on a deep run. Do
That's
not be
fair.
shocked. Do not be shocked if this team goes on to beat IU by at least 3 scores. They will give the Dogs a fight next week. If they take out the Hoosiers easily, they will give the Dogs a fight.
What's your genuine score prediction for this game?
So I'm a little bit nervous, to be honest with you.
You are? Why?
Because it just seems like I was talking with people about this, and shout out to Benny Gantz' brother, Eli Gantz. He said, quote, there is nothing scarier than a team that has nothing to lose. The Irish have everything to lose. Indiana
Look at this.
Has nothing to lose.
Read number 2. You see number 2? IU has no pressure on them to win. And that's why I brought up the history for Notre Dame. We were projected second to last in the Big Ten. It doesn't matter if we lose. It doesn't matter.
No else was? Arizona State. Shout out to Sun Devils.
And that's why Rome is here, and he can. They're not playing in the first round, but he can go argue if he has the opportunity today. But yeah, IU has no pressure on them to win this week. They are here. They were projected 68th. They were projected. No. They were projected to finish 86th.
Yep.
In college football this year.
They
are number 10. They reached number 5 at their peak. So Notre Dame
is a legend. Let's make that very clear.
He is. What?
It just seems like that Marcus Freeman has assembled a culture with this team. We don't want to beat you. We want to humiliate you. Every game besides potentially USC and Louisville after NIU was a blowout. Notre Dame has blown out every team they've played besides Louisville and USC. But the Louisville game, they were up 21-7 in the first quarter. They just let off the gas a little bit. I don't want to say that Indiana doesn't have a chance because they definitely do. Anyone can be anybody on any given day. And also with how chaotic this college football season has been, you never know. But my final score prediction is 28-17 Notre Dame. The Irish continue their run, besides one game, of giving up less than 20 points a game. I think Curtis Rourke gets sacked 5 times because Indiana's offensive line is untrustworthy. That's my 2 cents. What is your score prediction before we wrap up this round of the debate?
I'll go 28-24 IU. I think one thing I haven't mentioned is that third down, that's a huge problem for you guys. That's all I'm going to say. IU ranks
not as of late, but in the past, that was a huge problem. As of late, though, it has definitely been better.
IU ranked 8th in defensive third down, while Notre Dame ranked 87th in offensive third down.
I thought talking about defense. Oh, yeah, offense.
No, offense. That's what I'm – and our front seven, it has been outstanding. We have 2 first-team All-Pro – or first-team All first-team All-American? Yeah. With Aiden Fisher and McCall Kamara.
Yep.
Right?
Studs.
And I will give you credit. Notre Dame, great O-line. But if they get themselves into a hole like IU, they put up the first touchdown against OSU, and we know what happened after that, unfortunately. But if Notre Dame gets put into that hole and they're relying on that passing game, I am not trusting Riley Leonard to kind of get away from that run game and stick to the passing because I know that defense is going to step up big. And D'Angelo Ponce, he is a dog.
Well, we're going to see what happens. That was, I'd say, a pretty good debate. Let's bring the rest of the panel back on. Guys, I'm going to let everybody, we're going to go down the line. This is what we're going to do for every game. Y'all are going to simply just make a prediction on who y'all think is going to win. Let's start up at the top. Jack, prediction for IU versus Notre Dame and why?
I think it will be Notre Dame winning. I think it will be 23-17 Notre Dame. Similar to you, but I think there's more field goals in this game by Notre Dame. And also, I think Indiana's defense also plays well versus you guys. Talking about third downs and all that stuff. But also, I think Indiana's very overrated. But I think it's closer just solely because I feel like they're going to have a grudge because it's the college football playoffs and the little in-state rivalry.
Well said. Very well said. Dylan?
So I would say Notre Dame has the upper hand here. They're just a more experienced group going against the team that I feel like has probably hit their plateau. I don't know how much higher Indiana can soar. Their offense has been slightly less explosive in the later weeks of the season. Notre Dame's going to be able to channel that in. I think Notre Dame win. Low scoring, but pretty comfortably. I'm going to go 20-7.
Nice. Rome?
I think this debate was pretty interesting. At first, I thought, coming into this, Notre Dame and Indiana was one of the more boring games on the first round. I'll be honest about that because you wouldn't really expect these two to really come together. But I feel like Bonner and I can relate in our two teams because both our teams, like we said, have nothing to lose.
Let's go.
We're just kind of on the we were doubted to start the year, and then now, for me, respectively, Big 12 champions. You guys were up there in the Big 10 as well. So, I really respect Indiana, what they've been able to do. I don't have a lot of faith in Riley Leonard. I don't have a lot of faith in Marcus Freeman. I don't have a lot of faith in a lot of that Notre Dame team. And respectfully, I think they're one of the more fraudulent teams in the CFP. I'll be honest with you right now. And I know JJ is going to get really mad at me for saying that because he always gets mad.
The rage bait continues from Mr. Rome.
I just like being petty in front of this guy. Let's be honest. But I think for me, I think the final score is going to be 20-13 IU.
You love to see.
I think Bonner
You're out of your
convinced me.
mind. You're out of your mind. Joe, what do you got?
Indiana reminds me of Notre Dame in 2012.
Okay.
They played nobody all year. They when they get their asses kicked. This is an easy one. Notre Dame is going to boat race them. It's going to be 31-14, something like that.
Love it.
They remind me of like everybody feels great about Indiana right now, and it's a feel good story. But the one time they played anybody that was any good, they got killed.
Yep.
It's not. I don't really think. And you know me, JJ. I'd love to tell you that Indiana's going to kick the crap out of Notre Dame, but I think Notre Dame is used to this moment, and Indiana is not. They're shitting their pants right now. However, I do like the argument of a team with nothing to lose, is a dangerous team because I'm using the same argument myself. But at the end of the day, like Indiana's not ready for this yet.
I agree. I'll tell you what, though. Shout out Kurt Signetti. He's doing a pretty good thing. The guys need to shut his mouth at some point. Anyway, Charlie Hitt, close us out for Indiana Notre Dame.
The best part about about Indiana's season was their schedule.
Yes.
And
Damn.
100% agree.
The one time that they played a good opponent, they weren't impressive whatsoever. Offense couldn't get much going. And I think as much as I doubt Notre Dame's ability to get past the second round of the playoffs, I think their early season win against A&M proved a lot on the road in a tough environment. They can win in big games. I think it's going to be low scoring. I got Notre Dame 23-10.
I mess with that. All right. So I feel like we pretty much covered the basis of Notre Dame, Indiana. So I might as well just ask everybody, since almost all of us agree the Irish are going to get the job done, do they have a legitimate shot against Georgia?
Absolutely not. I'm just telling you right now, absolutely not. Even though with Carson Beck or not, I mean, yeah, you might be, that backup quarterback they got, that dual threat guy, that might kind of help you out. But if they're rolling the way they're rolling, I respect the fact that they kind of got their hands beaten by Georgia Tech being in that eight overtime thriller. I have a lot of questions. I think Riley Leonard's a decent quarterback. I just don't know if this team has what it takes to really pull off a run. But you never know. We see it a lot of the time in the NCAA tournament, March Madness, where you don't think a lot of these teams are going to pull off a run, and they do. So that could just as feasibly happen. But I just have a lot of questions. I think Georgia's really battle tested. They know how to win scrappy games, and I just don't know. Again, this is blissful ignorance because I don't really watch a lot of Notre Dame, respectfully, but. I don't have a lot of faith in this Fighting Irish team. I just
still live in the shadow of the old rivalry between.
How far do you think they're
ASU
going,
and Notre Dame.
JJ?
I think if they beat Georgia, they can very well get to the national championship.
You think?
However, no.
Okay.
I'm going to get my heart crushed by the Ducks, and I'm going to lose 2 national championships, and this is going to probably be the one that puts me over the edge. So I'm gonna just, since we're unfortunately still waiting on a few other people, I feel like we may as well not waste any time and just jump to the next game, which is SMU versus Penn State. If anybody wants to try to make a case for SMU, y'all can definitely attempt to make a case for SMU. I know the Clemson fan at least has something to say about SMU. He's either going to say that they're a legitimate team or they're frauds after the showing in the ACC championship game.
Can I say my case?
Hold on, Jack. I know he has a lot to say.
I don't think they're frauds. And I think the guts that they showed Clemson, it was 24-7 at the half. Mm-hmm. And out of that second half comeback was Clemson not finishing and kind of taking their foot off the gas stupidly when they shouldn't have. But they're a gutsy team. I think they're a dangerous team. Their quarterback is super mobile. He's really tough to get on the ground.
Yeah.
He's
Shout
really
out Kevin
fast.
Jennings. Shout out Kevin Jennings.
He's a player. That kid's and I think their defense at times looks really good, and then at times looks not good at all. And, like a lot of other teams have this argument. Who the hell did they play? Who'd they beat? Blah, blah, blah. But they beat everyone that was in front of them all year pretty much. They had 2 losses. BYU beat them when BYU was a different team than they are right now. They almost beat Clemson. What they did in the second half of the ACC championship game was really impressive. Up to that point, it was really unimpressive. So if they could put 4 quarters together, I don't trust James Franklin in a big game at all, ever. I don't think he finds a way to screw up everything.
I agree.
He's got more talent. He's got more talent than most other teams. And for some reason, he just never. He's like him and Ryan Day should just they should fight it out in a boxing ring or something to see who's the dumbest play caller in the Big Ten.
That's pretty well.
They both find a way to lose big games.
Yes, they
do. I don't think SMU is going to beat Penn State. I really don't. But I wouldn't be. I don't know. I wouldn't be blown away if they found a way to squeak them by, and I really wouldn't be shocked if they kept it close, and James Franklin dumb at the end of the game that cost them the game. But I also wouldn't be surprised. I also wouldn't be shocked if Penn State beat them by 4 touchdowns either. That could happen too. I don't see SMU winning by 2 scores, but I do think if they find a way to keep it close, they have a shot.
The question on everybody, yes. The question on everybody's mind is, can Penn State finally play up to potential like they did against Oregon? Jack, you got a rebuttal.
Yes. All right. So my take on this Penn State SMU game, I think it's not going to be a blowout. It's going to be close as a Penn State fan myself because I do have hope in SMU. But my take is Penn State, one of the best D linemen in the country. You got Sane Duran. You got Dennis Sutton. You got Abdul Carter. You have Rojas and King in your front 7. That front 7 is absolutely stacked. Your DB's great. Drew Aller, if he went into the draft this year, which he's expected to stay senior year, he would have been probably a top 4 quarterback in this class going in. And you have the running back duo, Nick Singleton and Kaytron Allen, which is one of the more deadly running back duos in the league. And plus Tyler Warren, they put him in the Heisman case for a reason. He's been balling all year. SMU is not going to be able to handle that. That's just my take on that. And with this Penn State defense, I know James Franklin can't win big games, even though he really can't beat Ohio State. I can't even lie to you. But in general, I really think this Penn State team versus an ACC team will just prove to what they could really be. And I think Drew Aller is going to have the best game he did all season.
Well said.
That's why I think he'll beat SMU.
Bonner, what do you got? Your mic is off.
My bad. I think Penn State's going to win it. I think just having the home crowd behind them, that's just a big advantage anyways. And even though it is a noon game or an afternoon game, it's still going to be a whiteout game. And whiteout is an absolutely like electric atmosphere. So yeah, I'll take Penn State. I think they've got more experience as a program, and I think Penn State will take it. Final score 31-17.
All right, Dylan.
I think Penn State's got it as well. Again, a more solidified and capable program in James Franklin's had his problems in big games, but at least they have the consistency of playing big games. This is one at their home stadium, a whiteout game against an inferior opponent. If you even want to get something close to a marquee victory, you have to get this one. I think Penn State win this game out of necessity, because if they don't, everyone that has a job doesn't have a job anymore.
Yeah, I think I honestly agree with what Dylan said. Like, if Penn State needs to win this game, regardless of what needs to happen, and if they lose, I think James Franklin's out of a job. You can pretty much book that as a done deal. And because people are like creating this hoopla about, Penn State is the easiest route, yada yada yada. That all gets scrapped away if you lose to SMU within a blink of an eye. And if James Franklin and the Penn State team wants to win this game, they have to be all locked in. Film needs to be studied. Everybody needs to have a good sense of the game plan to be locked in, because if they're not, then they're going to be off the back foot. And SMU is not a team that you want to be on the back foot on, because their offense is high powered, and they'll make you pay for your mistakes. So I think if you're Penn State, you need to stay locked in at all times and really keep the pressure on and not really think about going to the semifinals or going to the Natty. Like, that shouldn't be in the realm of possibility. They need to focus on SMU. They need to focus on beating SMU before they start thinking about other things.
Very well said. Charlie?
I think SMU is 1 year away. Let's just Penn State, like a lot of people have been saying with the whiteout game, I think it's going to overwhelm them a little bit. I do like the response that they had against Clemson in the second half of the ACC championship game. Shout out Charlotte, by the way. But I don't know. I think, like also what Dylan was saying, that Penn State has struggled in big games, but at least they've played a lot of big games. I like SMU's quarterback Jennings, but I don't know. I don't think he can get it done in a road whiteout playoff game. I think Penn State's going to win by 10 plus.
10 plus. All right. So I saved my take for last. Everybody knows me well. I do have ties to Penn State. People know me very well. But I have been, for those who have been following me on social medias and all my college football stuff, everybody knows that I have been SMU's biggest defender. People know that very well. They see me, hell, when Bama was about to go over them, I legit changed my profile picture to an SMU logo saying Pony Up. Shout out the SMU Pony Express. Shout out Eric Dickerson. From the death penalty to the college football playoff. That's a pretty incredible story. But anyway, besides all the pomp and circumstance, I want to say SMU has a chance, but they don't. I love Kevin Jennings, and I love the culture they have over in Southern Methodist, but when you're going up against Abdul Carter and Kobe King and Zion Tracy, I just don't trust an inexperienced team, to beat a juggernaut like Penn State. So I'm going with Penn State by 1 million. I love SMU to death. I wish them the best, but this pick seems pretty obvious for me. It's Penn State by 1 million. Okay, so that pretty much does that for the SMU Penn State game. It is now time for the Clemson and Texas game. Similar to what we did for the SMU game, my Texas guy is going to be on in about 2-3 minutes. So we're going to obviously go around first, make picks, and then Joe is going to absolutely destroy this guy. Bonner, thanks so much for hopping on. I heard you got a dip, which is okay. I hope you're ready for the beatdown on Friday night. But other than that, enjoy yourself.
Thank you too. I'll give my quick score prediction for Texas Clemson while we're on it. I think Texas wins. I'm gonna go low. I'm gonna go 24-17. I think it'll be closer than a lot of people think, but I think Texas will pull it out eventually. But yeah, thank you, JJ. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome.
Good luck on Sunday. See you all.
Yes, sir. See you.
See you, man. All right. We got Clemson versus Tennessee as the third game on Texas. Sorry. I wish it was Clemson, Tennessee, because then we could have had an all-orange game sponsored by the Orange Bowl. Would have been a magnificent game. But anyway, Clemson
Ball
is
to
going.
100.
Yes, Clemson is going into this game against a team that I predicted at the start of the season to win the national championship, and then the Georgia Bulldogs happened. Georgia finally played like themselves, won the SEC title against them, pretty much stole the win against Texas. But when I look at Texas, I look at a team that is full of star power. I look at Quinn Ewers. I look at Isaiah Bond. I look at Golden. I look at the running back Vidal Blue. Whatever his name is, Jaden Blue. He's a monster. You know who I'm talking about. Number 23. Anyway, I also look at their defense. Their defense, the second best unit in the country, just behind the Ohio State Buckeyes. I see a team full of star power. I see a team full of tenacity and aggression. I see a team that is poised for a deep run. But then I look at Clemson. I look at a team that is destined for success. I look at a team that should have won the ACC on paper. At the start of the season, it should have been projected to win the ACC. But no, everybody bought into the Florida State hype. I was one of them. I looked like an absolute idiot. I was clowned all year, even though everybody on the first roundtable took FSU to make the ACC championship. So shame on Charlie Hitch, shame on Jack, shame on Gavin, shame on Jacob, shame on Gan, shame on everybody who took FSU because I'm not going down this hill alone. I want to take Clemson. I think there is definitely potential for an upset, but if I don't take the Texas Longhorns to win this game, I'm just simply not doing my job. Jack?
Yeah, my take on this is I think Texas will win. I really don't think it's going to be close. I just feel like Texas star power. I feel like Ewers, even though played okay last year versus Washington, but I genuinely think he's going to do the job today. They have a great running back core. Their overall defense, too. I know they not really disappointed versus Georgia, but I genuinely think Texas will beat Clemson this year. And also, you saw what Clemson did week 1 versus Georgia. That wasn't very good. And if you watch that game, Clay Club couldn't do anything versus that Georgia defense. So, yeah.
That was an ass kicking back in week 1. But that being said, week 1 is a completely different thing compared to week 13. Like we saw Clemson almost beat Clemson nearly lost to South Carolina. Well, they did lose South Carolina. What am I saying?
South Carolina is a really good football team.
You were at that game, right, Joe? You took James with you. Yeah, so that must have been a bit fun. Took the Hoffman family. That was wonderful. Anyway, let's proceed. Charlie, what do you got?
I've been pretty underwhelmed with both of these teams all year long. I know Clemson's kind of on a heater right now. They had a really good half against SMU, plus that drive at the end of the game. I haven't been impressed with Quinn Ewers all year long. You know, there's times where he looks like a professional NFL quarterback. There's times where he looks like a backup Texas quarterback. But I think the power that Texas has surrounded Quinn Ewers with, you know, he can go to Texas A&M, play a really bad game, and they can still win 17-7. I don't know. It's just hard for me to think that Clemson can beat that team on the road. So I have Texas winning, I don't know, 27-17.
Yeah, it's going to be a hot day in Austin. It's going to be a day. I'll tell you that much. Dylan?
I mean, to me, and this might come as a surprise, Texas is the best team in college football outside of Oregon. I think that this is a team that has the best defense in the country and have been able to outscore teams that are very, very competent. And I know I said better than Oregon. It goes hand in hand. It's not a one better than the other, but at least a top 2 defense in the country. This team it just strikes all the boxes. And the question is, can Quinn Ewers show up multiple games in a row? I don't know whether or not he's going to be able to do that. But even if he doesn't show up against Clemson, they're going to win this game anyway. This is a team that has too much talent across the board to lose. And I really do rate Clemson very highly. I think they would beat a lot of teams that they would have to go against. I just don't think it's plausible that they beat Texas.
Well said. Rome?
I think this game I'm as an ASU fan, and obviously because I go to ASU, I'm basically thinking of this game as like a scouting opportunity to watch both these teams, see what they're about, because obviously ASU plays one of these teams if they win. So I'm kind of like, okay, like who would I rather play? Who would I rather take on easier, or what's the better matchup, or what would be the harder matchup? But I think simply looking at it, if you're looking at it from this game, right? I think it's one of the more toss-up games to me, I think, because I feel like if we're looking at what last week was the championship week was, right? Clemson got off to a great start against SMU. Now, granted, it was against SMU, and they lost a little bit, but they managed to get it done in the end. Same thing with Texas against Georgia, right? They didn't play well at all throughout the remainder of the game and lost that game against Georgia. So, both these teams are very kind of, I wouldn't say middle of the pack, because they're obviously not. They're here for a reason. But I feel like there are more questions to be asked about both these teams than we think we're giving credit for. Like, I understand that Texas is one of the best teams in the country. Without a doubt, they got the best quarterback duo of the country, and it's not close. I understand that. But I feel like we have to kind of start asking questions about this Texas team now, because if they were supposed to be this dominant team, as Dylan's saying that they're better than Oregon, yada yada yada. Like we can't be saying that and then look at what happened with Georgia in the SEC championship and look at that as the same scenario. Now, granted, I get that it was against Georgia. Georgia's a great team, great defense, all that stuff. But again, I just feel like there's a lot of questions that need to be answered with this Texas team, which makes me think that they are on upset watch in this one, I think. Because if you look at the way Clemson played, again, granted, it was against SMU. They're not really the most highly rated opponent in the world. And I could see a world where Texas beats Clemson by a lot. But I feel like Clemson's been in this position before, obviously with a better team in the past. But they know how to play in the college football playoff. They know how to be battle tested in these moments. And I feel like, with this Clemson team, it's interesting to see how they'll battle against Quinn Ewers. Because like I said, this Texas team is very beatable. We're not seeming to say that out front, because Texas is a very beatable team. And I feel like Clemson is one of those teams that can really sneak up on you and make this a trap game for Texas, because Texas fans can be like, oh, we're going to wash over Clemson. They got a lucky ACC championship when they got here because Miami lost to Syracuse, whatever. But I really do think Clemson has a chance to win this game. And, I'm not just saying that because I want them to play against ASU, because ASU will beat them, but we'll talk about that when we get there. We'll cross that bridge when we get there, of course. But yeah, I do think in terms of this matchup alone, I think Clemson has the upper hand against Texas, and I wouldn't be surprised if they beat them, or I wouldn't be surprised if Texas beats them by a lot. But in my opinion, I think Clemson's going to beat Texas.
Well said. All right, Joe, indulge us on the Tigers.
What NC State basketball last year, right? That's what I think of. Like when you talk about they backdoored their way into the playoff. Got it, right? Everybody likes to say that, and I get it. And they probably, I'm a Clemson guy, they probably don't belong there for what, they lost to South Carolina, they lost to Louisville, they lost to Georgia. Halftime of the Georgia game, it was 3-0. Georgia couldn't do shit on them against Clemson's defense. Cade Klubnik played terrible. Since the Georgia game, if you want to compare Cade Klubnik to Ewers, it's not even comparable. Klubnik is a better quarterback than Quinn Ewers. The numbers say it. Quinn Ewers has 9 interceptions this year. Cade Klubnik is 3rd in the country on touchdown passes. Like if you look at quarterback play, Ewers is not even in the same class as Cade Klubnik. And nobody talks about Cade Klubnik being on that level. Texas has more around Ewers. I get it. They got, he's got 5 stars all around him. So does Clemson. If you go player against player, this is an even matchup. Clemson's defense doesn't give up a lot of points. They just don't. Their defensive line can play with anybody. TJ Parker has the most forced fumbles of anyone in the country. He's the guy. Every time he tackles somebody, they fumble. That's what this game. Excuse me. That's what this game is going to come down to. It's going to come down to a couple turnovers here or there. It's very easy to look at this game and say Texas is going to blow them out. Texas, going to beat them by 2 touchdowns, 3 touchdowns. Okay. But if we're talking about a sport where momentum means everything, and right now we're playing with house money. And Dabo lives on that. How many times did we hear him say, "Oh, don't, watch out for little old Clemson." He loves playing the underdog. Even when he was the favorite, he had Trevor Lawrence as his quarterback. He would refer to his team as little old Clemson. This guy loves that shit. And he
does.
He's been in a situation way more than Sarkisian has. And as a head coach anyway. So he's a great coordinator. I don't see this being a high-scoring game at all. I think both defenses are really good. I think this game is in the teens. I don't think anybody scores more than 21 points in this game. It's going to come down to a couple of key turnovers, which, that can have a tipped ball here, an interception, a fumble, a muffed punt, something like that. It's, nobody's giving Clemson a chance, across the country, except for, a couple of guys in, ACC network guys. But I don't see how you can Texas, Texas, this is a layup for Texas. It's not. Cade Klubnik has played high school football in the stadium where they're going to play Texas in Austin. He lit it up, they're going to his backyard.
At Westlake, right?
Yes, sir.
Pretty sure it was at Westlake. Yes.
He won a state championship in Darrell K. Royal Stadium.
Correct.
And Sarkisian, Dabo and Sarkisian were at the game together, standing in the end zone watching the game. This is this is a homecoming for Cade. This is the pinnacle of his college career. I think he's gonna have a day. I'm worried about Phil Maffa not being 100%. I'm worried about the other running back for Clemson. Haynes is hurt. He's out. He's not playing. But I think the wide receivers for Clemson that were freshmen at the beginning of the year, and now they're not freshmen anymore. Bryant Westco, these guys, that they have receivers that are dogs, frisbee catching dogs, and they're gonna if they show up. Adam Randall, I mean, these guys are players. They're all NFL
that tight
players.
end. That tight end of yours. He had 2 touchdowns against
Brenning Sewell is an NFL tight end.
Yes.
And Brenning Sewell hasn't had a great game since the middle of the year. So the Clemson's problem is they don't play for 4 quarters ever. They haven't had a game this year where they played all 4 quarters. If they put 4 quarters together, they beat Texas. And they beat them, they leave no doubt. And I'm confident of that. That's because I know how good Clemson can be when they're good. I saw Vanderbilt almost beat Texas. I saw Texas play like shit against Kentucky for stretches of times. Like I don't think they're the best team in college football other than Oregon. I really don't. I think they're beatable. I think they're going into this game knowing that they're big favorites. What 10.5 point favorites? These are kids that have never won anything yet, and they're huge favorites going into a college football playoff game. 18 to 22-year-olds, that can go to your head. I don't think the Clemson coaching staff, Dabo is never going to let them think that they've won anything yet. That they're always the underdog. He loves that shit. So this is going to be I think it's going to be a close game, 13-13, 13-10. The defenses are going to show up, but it's going to come down to a couple of key plays. And if Clemson brings it for 4 straight quarters, they win the game.
Yeah.
17-13 Tigers.
Wow. And you told me before the show, you told me that there is no chance Clemson will beat Texas, and you may have just silenced the entire room. That was really good, Joe. I'm impressed. All right. Charlie, you've waited about 45 minutes for this. there's going to be potentially a few Ohio State people. I was waiting on one of them. If not, then we're just going to make some picks for this game. But Charlie, this is your time to shine. Tennessee and Ohio State. You can find it this Saturday night live, as it is the Empire Sports Media game of the week. We will be live for this one and the Clemson game on YouTube. It's going to be a fun time, but Charlie, indulge me on those volunteers.
There's pesky balls, right? Listen,
Pesky
this,
balls.
I mean, I don't think I can really overemphasize how big and how cool of a game this is going to be. Like, I don't know when the last time was Ohio State had a home night game, for one. Two, if you take the time out of your day, 10 minutes, to scroll Twitter and look at Tennessee or Ohio State fan accounts, the lengths to which they go to insult each other and how like into this game they're getting is insane. So anyways, it's gonna be cold, 20 degrees in Columbus. And I think, as much as Ohio State, their team and their fans might want to think that benefits Ohio State, I think it really benefits Tennessee. And in the sense that Tennessee has one of the best running offenses in the country. You know, Dylan Sampson should have been a Heisman candidate, has 20-plus touchdowns on the season.
Monster.
And I mean, everybody knows, Nico's a great quarterback, but the passing offense is not Tennessee's strength. It's their run game and their defense. And I think the fact that Ohio State's passing offense has, for one, struggled, and two, theoretically wouldn't get too far in a cold night game in the middle of December. Plus, that running offense has been atrocious. I mean, Henderson and Judkins have not been able to get anything going in the run game after, Ohio State has probably spent millions on them in the offseason. It's crazy. So it's going to be a really, really scrappy game, but I think Jermod McCoy, who is a second-team All-American, is going to be able to lock up Jeremiah Smith. I don't trust Will Howard. I never have. And I simply don't think that Ohio State, their fans, are invested in this team after the Michigan game. I'm pretty sure that at least 30% of the fans in that stadium are going to be out for his head if they don't go up 14 points in the first half. I mean, they might be out for his head pregame. Who knows? There's going to be a lot of Tennessee fans in that stadium, and it's going to.
So I've heard. You heard about the ticket thing. Apparently, OSU shut down their ticket thing because Tennessee fans brought thousands of them, is what I've been told.
SeatGeek said that 40% of the tickets that they've sold came from the state of Tennessee.
Damn.
It's
that means there's going to be more out of the state then too.
Oh yeah, and Tennessee fans have a history of taking over road stadiums. If you look up their game in 2022 at LSU, there was an entire quarter of the stadium that was entirely orange, singing Rocky Top in the entire lower bowl post game. It's not going to be easy for Ohio State. I don't care how many points they're favored by. I have Tennessee by double that, 14 points.
Wow. Okay. Jack.
Yeah, so do you know what's the funny thing? I agree, but I think it's going to be much closer. Like you said, Dylan Sampson, absolute stud. I was literally thinking about him this whole time, how good he really was as a back. Do I think he'll dominate? No. Do I think he'll play well? Yes. The Ohio State D-line is just a very good defensive line. Jack Slayer and Tyleek Williams, just great players. But I think Ohio State's passing game, and talking about guys in big games, Ryan Day can definitely not perform in those. I mean, especially in a big spot in the college football playoffs. I think, is this his first playoffs, Ryan Day? I'm pretty sure, yes.
But, this is, yes.
Yeah, and I don't think he's going to perform in it at all. I have Tennessee. I think the score is going to be a really close game. I think it will be 17-14 Tennessee, and I think it will be a game-winning field goal by Tennessee.
All right. I guess I'll go next. Like I already mentioned, I'll be calling this game live on Empire Sports Media. The link for that channel is obviously in the description below. But enough self-promotion. I'm just going to go ahead and say it. I do not trust Nico Iamaleava for one reason. It's going to be so difficult for a freshman quarterback to go into one of the most hostile environments in the country, face the #1 defense in all of college football, and to also establish a passing game against one of the better secondaries. Do I think Tennessee can win this game? Absolutely. I'm going to go ahead and say it. This game is going to overtime. It is the only game in the first round that is going to overtime. Give me, strictly off the backs of Jeremiah Smith, I think he's going to have a ridiculous game. I think there's going to be a defensive touchdown for Ohio State at some point in this game. Whether it's a fumble 6 or a pick 6, give me Ohio State 28, Tennessee 26. Overtime winner. Dylan?
I think this game's going to be a shootout, and I really do think that suits Tennessee. Ohio State, again, one of the best defenses in the country, arguably the best. But in these games, in the college football playoffs, we rarely see low-scoring football with teams that struggle running the football. Tennessee have a freshman quarterback and a good run game, but Ohio State knows they have a freshman quarterback, and I'm Team Nico all the way. I think he's one of the best prospects in college football. They know to make this guy throw because he's never played a college football playoff game before. You get the guy in and make him throw. It's a much different game, but I think he lives up to the bill, and I think he's going to win this game for Tennessee. Ohio State, a really, really good defense. They've struggled in big offensive games. They've had last-minute drives. They lost to Oregon because they couldn't put together a 2-minute drill. They lost to Michigan because they were thrown off completely. Tennessee don't have a game where they were thrown off completely. They've lost games where they've played badly, but it wasn't because they couldn't execute anything. The games that they lost, the game to Georgia's a great team. Georgia played a better football game than Tennessee. I don't know that I can say that Ohio State's a better football team than Tennessee. I really don't know if I can say that after watching what we saw against Michigan. Maybe I'm short-sighted. I don't know. But you're telling me that you're seeing what Ohio State and what Will Howard put out against Michigan and what you saw from Ohio State, even in games that they won this season, that I really wasn't as confident in them against. Like the Penn State game, perfect example. They didn't play a good game of football against Penn State. You really think about it, all of the good teams they've played this year, whether it be other than Indiana, who they rightfully beat the crap out of, they couldn't play a good defensive game against Oregon. They didn't really play a good game against, like, Michigan's not even a good team. I think Tennessee's more tested. I think Tennessee goes out and pulls up the, I guess, upset and wins this game.
Wow. I love all this talk of potentially Tennessee pulling off the upset, but you've already heard my take. Rome, what do you got?
I think for this Ohio State team, it's basically the same thing I said about Texas, right? Because, again, it is just one game. I mean, they lost twice. They lost against Oregon, lost against Michigan this year. But, people will say, oh, it's just one game. They had a bad day against Michigan, yada, yada, yada. I think that game told me a lot about this Ohio State team. And like I said about Texas, we have more questions to be answered about this Ohio State team than we think we do, because they clearly didn't have a great offensive game plan against Michigan. And they clearly won't have an offensive game plan against Tennessee, because I think, Tennessee is up there as one of the best teams in college football. I think we can pretty much put that as there's a reason why they're here. But again, a lot of questions for me with this Ohio State team. And I feel like Tennessee's going to blow the doors off them, I think, in this one, because I feel like Ryan Day is not really the best coach in college football. And I'm saying that really generously and really lightly, because I could come on here and say some stuff about Ryan Day, but I'm not going to do that just because I'm going to be a civil individual on here. But I feel like, he's just not really the best coach in college football. I think we can all pretty much say that on here. And I think that's the reason why Ohio State's going to lose this game, is because they're not going to have a good game plan against Tennessee. They haven't really faced as much of a dual threat quarterback as Nico has been this year. And I think, if he's able to run and throw at a high level in an environment like Columbus, I think he'll get the job done. And I feel like, to JJ's point, yeah, sure, Columbus is like a lot of environment, this, that, the third. It's a great stadium, all that. But it's like we gotta see what's going on with this Ohio State team. Like, all that fanfare, all this extracurriculars doesn't mean anything. What matters is what's on the field. And to me, what's on the field, Tennessee has the advantage in that realm. And again, I just have a lot of questions with the Ohio State team. They don't have good game plans. They rely on their running backs too much. if they're going to win this game, they're going to have to rely on Will Howard and Jeremiah Smith to go right down the field and do what they're supposed to do and really just get the job done and know how to get into their offense and get into an up-tempo rhythm. And they didn't do that against Michigan. They didn't do that at all. They just relied on the running backs all the time, which if you're a one-dimensional offense like Ohio State was that game, it's not going to get you anywhere. So I think Tennessee is going to win this one 31-21. I think Ohio State's going to try and do well out of the gate to try and push it out, but I just think Tennessee, again, in the SEC, it's too battle-tested. I think Ohio State, frankly, skated past their schedules. I think even though they were a good team, losing against Michigan really reverses a lot of images in my head about this Ohio State team. And again, a lot of questions need to be answered, and it's just it's too much for me to handle with this Ohio State team. It's too confusing for me about this team, so I'm going to go with Tennessee in this one.
All right, I think we could both agree though, Charlie. If you guys somehow do pull off the upset, you have to plant the flag at midfield.
There's already been talks about that. There's no getting away with not planting the flag. People have talked about ripping the goalpost out and throwing them in the nearest river. Like they're going to get a rude awakening. They will get a rude awakening to the Tennessee fans that have been waiting for a good season since 1998. It's going to be crazy.
Massive fines incoming.
Yeah.
All right. Massive fines coming planting the flag. Joe, what do you got?
I don't think I don't trust Ryan Day at all. Tennessee is riding the wave of the enthusiasm of their fans right now. Like you just said, their fans are freaking ready for this. And I don't think the cold weather bothers them. I think they're going to show up ready to play. I love their coach. I think I see this game. I see this game going Tennessee's way and handily. I think they get out to a fast start and they stay ahead, and they kind of. I don't like coaches that are coaching for their lives, and I feel like even though they said Ryan Day's back another year for sure, I think Ryan Day knows that he's on the hot seat, even if they won't say he is. And coaches that are coaching for their lives, it's a different thing. They're rarely successful, and I think Tennessee beats them, and OSU walks off the field to a chorus of boos again, and I don't see Tennessee lose the game.
Well said. I'll tell you this. And you could probably, Charlie can call me out on this for sure. He knows that I was very, very, very harsh on Tennessee this year.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
I said 8-4. I may have been a little bit too harsh. That NC State game will go down as one of the worst or not the NC State game, the Oklahoma game.
You said NC State. You said NC State.
It was both. I picked both.
Yeah.
Those were both pretty bad, but it is what it is. So now that pretty much wraps up all the games, I do want to discuss this with the group. We're obviously fans of 6 different college football teams, technically 5.5 if we're going to be more specific. So I'm going to go down the line, starting with Rome. We're gonna go actually in seed order. So Shalom representing Boise State's going to start first. We all know what the Oregon and Georgia fan would think. Oh, Georgia's going to the Natty. Go Dogs, sick them. Like they're going to do that stupid shit. We don't need to hear that. Oregon probably thinks they're going to go undefeated. They probably think they're going to crush Ohio State. So we have a good idea on those two. But most of the guys here we are mid-tier seeds, all playing this Friday or Saturday, except for Rome and Shalom. So Shalom, I'm going to start with you. How far is the Ashton Genty train going to take the Boise State Broncos?
It's really an impossible question because we have not seen a limit to how good Ashton Genty can be yet. Now, they lost to Oregon. I don't think they're a team that's going to beat Georgia. As much as I want to say Ashton Genty can win the national championship by himself, realistically he can't. He got robbed of the Heisman. He can't win the championship by himself. He's going to need help from the team around him, and the truth is the team around him is just not on the level of that of Georgia or Oregon or even some of the other teams in this like Notre Dame even. Do I think Ashton Jeanty can beat Penn State or SMU? Absolutely. Do I think he will? Absolutely. I think that he as a player by him, like obviously not by himself. It's not how football works, but his impact will be enough to take them over that line and get them one at least college football playoff win. That is
so they'll be Penn State. So they'll be Penn State, you're saying.
That is my expectation. And I expect them to be in whatever game that they play. I don't think they're going to be blown out ever just because they have such a dominant run game. They're going to control the clock. They're going to have the ability to play the game on their own terms because there's no team in college football that can dictate the game on the ground as well as they do. How much of an impact that has against the best teams, I'm yet to see. I don't expect them to go out and upset Georgia or Oregon. It's just pretty much not plausible. But I do think that they can go. I think they can and will go out and beat Penn State.
Well said. All right, Rome, I know you've waited a long time to talk about this team. I'm just going to say it right now. I love Cam Skattebo. Floor is yours.
Let me do my Ray Lewis dance for a second because I'm about to come in and break open. Let me just lock in here for a second because y'all are about to get the most ASU glaze session you're gonna get in your life.
All this just to lose in the second round of the playoff to the Texas.
Okay. I'll get to all this delusion in a second. Okay, I'll get to all this delusion that you people think ASU is not gonna do well. Okay, I'll get to that in a second. But let me break this down for y'all real quick. Right. Let me start this off by saying that ASU was predicted to be last in the Big 12.
I had him finishing last. I remember.
In the Big 12. And guess who won the Big 12 championship just a little bit ago? And beat up on Ohio State and put B2A on Iowa State pretty handedly. And, people have been doubting ASU all this time, right? I understand ASU's not college football powerhouse. People don't really expect them to be in a power football realm. They just like, oh, there's a journalism school. They party a lot. They, do this and that. Like, see, I understand that. That's the narrative around ASU. But this year, the narrative has been changed, right? When you look at, first of all, let me talk about my guy, Kenny Dillingham, because in my opinion, I know it's biased, but he's the coach of the year. I don't think it's a shot of a doubt. I think you look at what Indiana did, cool. Same story for them. They were second to last in the Big Ten, yada, 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 all that stuff. Kirk Cignetti's cool coach, whatever. But what Kenny Dillingham did in his second year as the Arizona State head coach, he turned around this team from being 3-9 at the beginning of this year, 2 back-to-back 3-9 seasons, and turned it around into an 11-2 record with the Big 12 championship going to Tempe, right? That has to be commended for something. And it wasn't, and it's disappointing. Next person I'll talk about, Cam Skattebo. JJ mentioned it earlier. I'll sing Cam Skattebo's praises till the cows come home, right? This guy is unbelievable. And I'll go as far to say that he's better than Ashton Jeanty. I get it that Ashton Jeanty's great. He's on pace for the rushing record. Cool. Skattebo's right behind him, I think. And he's even better because if you look at what he's done, the yards after the run, the yards after contact that this guy does, and the bowling ball that he is, it's unprecedented in college football. And yeah, Jeanty can be shifty. Yeah, he can carry his offense on his own, yada, yada, yada. But Jeanty's just a one-dimensional offense. Granted, he's a great player, but he's just one-dimensional offense. When you look at Boise State, they're not as dynamic as, ASU is or a lot of these teams are, right? And then when you look at a guy like Cam Skattebo, what he's done for this Arizona State team, he's been a lifer for this organization for a long time. Transferred in from Sacramento State, comes in, is the face of the program from pretty much the minute he stepped foot on campus. Everyone in Tempe is talking about how great Cam Skattebo is and how awesome he is, and other words that I won't say on here because they're inappropriate. But, Tempe people get busy. Let's just put it that way. But I think when you look at the way Cam Skattebo plays football, it's so different from a lot of how these other guys play. And I think, with the way he plays, the aggression that he shows is different from a lot of these guys. And I think that's going to propel him to, start him in the NFL. He'll be one of the top running backs coming out of the draft. just look at what he's doing, like 200 yards a game, 3 touchdowns a game. Like, who else is doing that other than Nash and Genty? He was robbed of being on the Heisman. He was robbed of all these awards because Genty was better than Cam Scadaboo is. Okay, sure, whatever. But let's get into my guy Sam Levitt real quick. A redshirt freshman coming out of Michigan State. Nobody kind of knew him outside of like maybe a couple appearances with the Spartans. Comes in, first year with the program, does an amazing job. Lights that offense on fire, has like 3 touchdowns a game against top tier Big 12 opponents. I mean, you look at Kansas, you look at Utah, you look at BYU, you look at all these teams, he does his thing. And although he's not the most explosive quarterback in the world, he can get it done on both sides. He can pass it really well and run it at a high rate. And I think the fact that he has those two abilities at an elite level shows that he's one of the best quarterbacks in college football. I don't think that's even a question. I think he is probably the most underrated quarterback in college football, and in one of the best offenses in college football, especially coached by Coach Roy, the offensive coordinator, along with Kenny Dillingham. And then I want to get to my guy Jordan Tyson, because even though he's probably not playing in the Peach Bowl on January, at least that's what it's reported to be, I feel like the way he's been able to play at the wide receiver level, it's been incredible. The transition that he's had from the middle part of the season to the second half has been nothing short of incredible. And it's unfortunate that he had an upper body injury and he had a sling against Arizona when he hurt his, I think it was his collarbone or something, but they're just calling it an upper body injury for right now. It's disappointing because, people said coming into the Big 12 championship, Jordan Tyson's this, that, and the third. Like, he's like, people don't really regard him in the same light as Cam Scadaboo and Sam Levitt. But what he's done in the short time that he's been in Tempe has been nothing short of amazing. And I got to give my guy credit for it because he's been unbelievable for this team. Like I said, even though he's probably not going to play in the Peach Bowl, he still has an impact on this team, and it's not lost. So those are the 3 big guys that you kind of need to watch out for in the Peach Bowl come January 1st, New Year's Day, whatever. But I think the one thing that people really tend to forget about this team is his defense, and in the secondary in particular. Because if you look at, the Big 12 conference in total, now granted it's not the NCAA stats and whatever. ASU is only second in the Big 12 in interceptions behind BYU, sorry. Arizona State has 15 interceptions on the year. They played really well against a really decent Iowa State offense. And even though, people were saying, Iowa State's got a really good offense, the RPOs, all that, I think coming into that game, you were kind of expecting ASU to kind of squeak it out and not dominate the way they did. And they dominated in every sense of the word. Once they kind of switched their adjustments and once they figured things out as the game went on, they were dominant. And I think when you look at this ASU team, that's what's kind of the X factor of this team. I'll get into the coaching in a second because that's one of them. But I think this defense is key too.
Get to the point, Rome. Get to the point.
You look at guys like Xavier Alford, Keith Abney. What else? Like Javen Robinson's been good too. You look at, the front seven with CJ Fight, Justin Watley, all that type of stuff. They're really good. The secondary is really great. All that type of stuff, right? And then you look at the coaching too. Kenny Dillingham, Arroyo, Coach Brian Ward, Hines Ward, the wide receiver coach, one of the most unsung heroes of this Arizona State coaching staff, really kind of brought this team together, galvanized them. And like what Bonner said about IU, like they're really playing with house money. They're really doing what they're supposed to be doing. And, people doubted ASU. Of course you doubt ASU because you think, there's not to worry about them. They're like the guy that you don't worry about in a relationship. And they're like, it's fine. You're fine. Don't worry about them. And then they sneak up on you and you're like, okay, there's something there with this team now. And, people are going to still say that ASU is the worst big college football playoff team of all time. Kenny Dillingham not getting coach of the year, Cam Scadaboo not being a Heisman Trophy finalist. All that's bulletin board material. And if you're Kenny Dillingham, he is going to slap that on the bulletin board and be like, guys, they're continuing to disrespect us. They're continuing to doubt us. Go prove the world wrong and go shock the world in this college football playoff. And I'll just say it outright. In our side of the bracket, I think we have a good chance to beat any one of these teams, even Oregon. I think if we play Oregon in the semifinals.
And on that note, I think I've heard
just
about
back and forth.
enough out of you.
But
I've heard enough out of you.
No, wait, JJ, let me finish, JJ, let me finish.
Hurry up.
You don't
I
deserve.
I swear I'll be done. I'll start be done in a second.
You don't deserve. Did
yell at me
you
all you
say
want.
that Cam Scadaboo is a
Yell at me
better
all you
running
want
back
in a second.
than
Let me
Ashton
finish.
Jeanty? Are you out of your mind?
Let
Do
me
you
finish.
realize, bro, that take is just as bad as shallow think Drew Holiday's a better basketball player than
You
Michael
talk too much
Jordan.
about Notre Dame anyway. Let me talk my stuff at H. I've been waiting. I've been silent for so long now. I've heard all y'all be talking about your teams. Let me talk about mine now. Okay, I'll say my last piece here. Right?
Fine.
ASU is going to shock the world. When you really do, when Jacob said you're doing your, I did my research. It's just that simple.
That was aimed at Bonner, by the way.
Oh, okay. But same thing here. I did my research too. I know this team well and all that. But I think when you look at this team, they're going to shock the world. I know people are going to yell at me and say this and that about this team and, oh, they're going to lose early on, yada, yada, yada. But you haven't seen this team like I've seen this team. There's the team of destiny. They can beat anyone that goes in front of them. And I have full faith in this team to go as far as they want to because, like I said, they got nothing to lose. They got absolutely nothing to lose. And you can yell at me all you want to because you're facing these like top teams in the college football playoff, yada, 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 your battle tests and all that. But ASU's playing with house money. And that is a dangerous team, like Bonner said at the top. Dangerous, dangerous, dangerous. That's all I'm going to say. I did my glazing sessions done. You could
thank God.
Unmute my mic. You can mute my mic all you want. I'm cool now. I said my piece. I'm done.
I would just like to say that take might be just as bad as when Dylan said Drew
You can say it's bad all you want, but I'm just speaking facts over here. I'm speaking facts.
I'm listening to you talk, and I do think Arizona State's a good team. I think that they are slept on. But to say that Cam Scadaboo is a better running back than Ashton Jeanty, that's not a world I want to live in.
No, it's a real argument.
No,
it's not a real argument. Ashton Jeanty ran for 200 yards 6 times. Who does that? Nobody does it.
Scadaboo puts up the same numbers as Jeanty does, bro.
And he played in the first half, only in the first half, like most of those games, too.
It's because they're dominating teams in the first half.
Boom. Here's the best part about Jeanty.
What's that argument there? Next thing.
Jeanty dropped his average rushing yards against the #1 team in the country in Oregon.
What's to say Cam Scadaboo can do the same thing? What's to say do that same thing?
If we're talking running backs, I want to make a case for Phil Maffa alongside Cam Scadaboo. If we're talking running backs.
What about Dylan Sampson? Dylan Sampson has gone.
Yes.
We're not doing this either. No.
Dylan Sampson has gone over 100 yards.
Nobody's putting up 2,000 yards other than Jeanty and Scadaboo.
Dylan Sampson has gone over 100 yards.
If you don't have 2,000 yards, I'm sorry.
Against every SEC team,
that's the argument you go on.
Including Georgia.
Argue about Dylan Sampson because Ashton Jeanty is just way clear of every other running back in the country, and it's not like I don't understand.
Hold on. That's for the playoff for sure. But if we're talking in general, you could obviously make the argument about Omari and Hampton. That guy is crazy good.
All right.
But we're not here to talk about the future of Bill Belichick's team. We're here to talk about playoff teams for a reason. Jack, you're next up. The team that should be ranked under Notre Dame, and I'm still mad about that because we should have the cakewalk, not you. But go on, say your piece about the Penn State Nittany Lions.
I think Penn State will beat Boise State. That's my opinion on that. Another reason about Penn State and Boise that I have another take on. My opinion on all this, right? I'll give you my take. I know people have beef on Ryan Day, and I know this has nothing to do with Ohio State, but I genuinely think Penn State will win this game. Boise State has had its first big game in a minute. I know they did win the Mountain West Championship, but they're in the Mountain West, bro. Like, come on. Like, Penn State, I know they lose big games, but a team that they're playing against hasn't really been in a lot of big games, so that's why I think Penn State will get it done. And my reasons before, I think Ashton Jeanty will go all for Penn State, so I think it will be another close game. But if I did have a score prediction, I think Drew Rattler is a really good game. I think it will be 30-24 Penn State.
All right, but what about how far can you go? I'm asking.
Oh, how far?
Can y'all actually so y'all are gonna lose to Georgia? Okay.
Yeah.
You made that very easy for me. So that means that people already know about me, so I'm just gonna make this quick. When it comes to the Fighting Irish, you have seen such a better team from the start of the season. This is the same team that lost to Northern Illinois, by the way. Let's not sugarcoat that. This is the same team that lost to NIU. That's what people say, but then they watch this team play. This is a significantly different Notre Dame team. They're running the ball efficiently. They can throw the ball. Their defense is electric. I mean, obviously, we haven't played like anybody crazy good besides A&M, but at the end of the day, this is about who's hot at the right time. Notre Dame could not be a hotter team right now. Again, 10 wins in a row. 10 wins in a row. 8 of them by blowout. I'm not talking about Arizona State, Rome. I get it. They're a hot team as well. But I'm talking about the Irish are one of the hottest teams in the country. And this is my mindset. If they can somehow if you beat Georgia, the sky is the limit for Notre Dame. They will go to the national championship if they can just beat the Dogs. Unlikely, I'm sure. I don't think they'll get it done, but there is a sliver of hope in my mind that they can get it done. And if they do, I have them going to Atlanta and getting not boat race, but losing a heartbreaker to Oregon, because after the Rams Super Bowl, I cannot have any nice things. That's my 2 cents on Notre Dame. Charlie.
You've talked a lot about who's hot at the right time. Since the start of November, Nico Iamaleava has had 11 touchdowns and a single interception, and his 2 highest passing touchdown totals of his entire season in his career have been in his last 2 games.
Yep.
Tennessee, compared to Ohio State, is a much hotter team. Everybody knows that. Ohio State couldn't get anything going at home against their biggest rival, who happened to be 6-5 going into that game.
Ouch.
Everybody wants Ryan Day out. Tennessee's going to prove the fans right. Go Vols.
But what about the rest of the – I'm saying how far can you go in general?
How far? Well, all right. So if Tennessee beats Ohio State, I'm going to the Rose Bowl. So
really,
obviously Tennessee's going to win the Rose Bowl, of course, against Oregon.
You're making the trip all the way to California just to see your team get crushed by Oregon.
And then once Tennessee beats Oregon, they're going to win the national championship. So
I'm saying 1998.
No. But in reality, though, if you think about it, if Tennessee goes out to California and beats Oregon, then
sky's the limit.
Well, yeah, they can win the national championship. They'll probably be matched up against Georgia. There, I don't know. I mean, they were winning at halftime, or I guess it was tied at halftime in Athens.
They would get matched up against either us or Georgia.
All right.
If OSU, Jacob says, if OSU wins, I'll take your ticket, Charlie.
All right. Cool.
All right.
I think we can make that work, but we'll talk about that later.
So you're predicting a semifinal for Tennessee.
It really depends I think if they beat Oregon, then they're going to the championship game.
Okay. So the same thing with Notre Dame. If they can beat in the quarterfinal, they'll go to the national championship. Well said. Joe, take us home. If you're still there. Your mic's off.
All right, you got me now?
Yep, take us home.
Clemson beats Texas.
Yeah.
I think they blow out Arizona State.
Okay. I like it.
I think they blow them out. From there, it gets a lot tougher. I think they have 2 wins left in. I don't think they have any more than that. I don't love Arizona State. It's a nice story. It's kind of like Indiana. It's nice, cute. It's real. It's adorable. Welcome to the big time. Now this is where the big dogs play. Go. You don't. It's nice to get an invite, but you can't. You're not beating anybody. I mean, especially if Texas beats Clemson, they're gonna blow out Arizona State. But if Clemson can beat Texas, if they find a way to beat Texas, I think they win easily against Arizona State. After that, I have a tough time seeing them make any noise after that. And I'd be happy with that. I'd be happy. if they just beat Texas. But if they 2 wins, that's a big, really good season for the Tigers, and I could sleep. I could sleep the same way I did when the Dodgers beat the Mets. It's like, hey, you know what? We got there. We went about as far as we could.
Yeah.
I'd be all right with it.
You beating Ohio State, or not Ohio State, you beating Texas would kind of be like saying when the Mets beat up on the Phillies, and it was a pretty feel-good story and all that. But then all roads came crashing down when they faced the juggernaut, like the Ducks, like the Buckeyes. Like, yeah, I think you put it very well. So you're also predicting the semifinal for the Tigers.
Sure.
I'm noticing a common trend. A lot of us think that our team, if they could just beat one team, they'll potentially go all the way. But that is all the time we have for tonight's show. I'd like to thank everybody for coming on. Jack, Joe, Charlie, Rome, Dylan, Bonner. Would have been nice if we could have got the other representatives on, but hey, it is what it is. And if you guys are down for it, for those that are still standing, and obviously myself, I would be so down to run this back for the quarterfinal. For those that are still standing.
I'm ready. Let's rock and roll with it. I'm ready to go up against anybody.
Good, because I'm gonna have somebody. It's either you're going up against my Texas guy or you're going up against Joe in an actual.
Joe and I can swing. That's light work. Joe and I can swing. I'm cool with that.
I don't know if you want to do that, Rome. We love the confidence. We love the confidence. But anyway, guys, got any final thoughts before we close it out?
I'm good, bro. Thanks for having us on, bro. I appreciate it.
Anytime. So thanks everybody for watching. No problem. Thanks everybody for watching. For the next episode of the College Football Roundtable, you'll join us next week for the quarterfinals. But for now, I'm JJ Seglio and Empire Sports Media saying signing off.